Right, guys.
Hi,
Good evening.
Good evening.
yes.
Hi.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening, Isak and Warwick, my co-host, and then especially I want to welcome our specialized guest, Henri Pereira from MyAquaponics. Now, Henri, I met through my group. He sent me some products just about end of June, and yes, we're going to be talking about aquaponics tonight, and he is our specialist and expert on the topic. So welcome, Henri. Thank you for joining us and taking the time.
Thank you, and thank you for having me.
All right. So Warwick, let's kick this off.
Right, yeah. So I think that the big question for me, Henri, is like, okay, so why don't you tell us how you got involved and what you guys are doing now with aquaponics? Let's start with that.
Okay, so we started in 2010, mainly as a hobby. I've always been into fish. My father used to breed tropical fish, so I've always had this like for tropical fish, in particular tilapia.
Okay.
And in 2010, I found out about aquaponics. We built a system, and then we started selling systems online. I've got a bit of a background on online marketing as well. And from there, it just took on, we started importing some of the stuff as well, some of the grow media, storing it in our garage and underneath our beds and everything else where we can find space. And it took off, and we started an online business, mainly selling equipment. And then the courses started much later, when we tied up with one of our customers, actually, that own a hotel in Lanseria. And they got a very environmentally friendly type of hotel with solar power and recycling everything. So they wanted a food production unit, where they would be able to have food produced for their restaurant. So they approached us. They bought a small system from us. They approached us for JV, and that's where we set up our tunnels, commercial tunnels, as you see in the background there. We've been there ever since, and that's where we give our courses, and people are welcome to come and have a look when we have it fully populated with plants. And that's the background.
Yeah, that's a long time, man. So you guys going a decade now. What caused you? Where were you before? What made you switch? If we can just, I'm always interested.
I didn't really switch,
Okay.
I'm from an IT telecom background, so I carried on with that. I'm an entrepreneur. I love online business, online marketing business, and this worked well, and it's one of my many businesses, but probably the top two.
Okay, brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So it looks like you guys have got quite a cool setup at the back there. How much space are you guys using for that particular system that you've got?
Yeah, it's not very big. So we got two 30 by 10 meter tunnels. The one in the background there is our plant tunnel, and the other one is for the fish. It wasn't the ideal design back in when did we do this? 2013. Ideally, you'd want to split the tunnel to be more viable. Not more viable. What's the word?
Productive?
Yeah, more useful.
More efficient?
so more efficient. Yeah, more efficient. That's the word. Where we would sort of our new design, and I've got a video on my YouTube where I explain a 3D design for a 30 by 10 meter tunnel, which would include 10% of 10 to 15% of the tunnel would be for your fish, and then the rest plants. The idea for having the separate tunnel at the moment was that at the time, my one partner wanted to breed with fish, so you wanted a dedicated tunnel for fish. So what's happened since is that we got half a tunnel on the other side standing empty, where it could have been used for growing plants, you know.
Gotcha.
So, but we're slowly changing and hopefully evolve from where we are at the moment.
Great.
Nice.
And I imagine you are producing quite a bit of food in there. Lovely for your salads. I see a lot of salad type of veggies at the back. So that looks really good.
When we started, you know, the restaurant wanted everything, you know, so they wanted a bit of tomatoes and cucumbers and lettuce and chilies, and so, you know, we tried to serve all that, but it's almost an impossibility when you start going commercial. When you start going commercial, you have to sort of focus on one or two crops, and lettuce, of course, being the easiest one to grow, more of a cash crop. You know, you turn it around every 4 to 6 weeks, depending on the season. But we still, on the side there, we still grow tomatoes and cucumbers from time to time, but we've stopped trying to grow everything, you know, for the restaurants. So we only dedicate ourselves to 2 or 3 crops, and that's it. You know?
Well, that brings me to a question, Henry, because my group is a group of homesteaders and people on farms, homesteads, or urban that wants to be self-sufficient. So in a case of a family wanting to put up a aquaponics system and grow most of their vegetables, is that a possibility? Or
yeah, of course. Yeah. So if you're going what we call a backyard system, and we've got a few backyard systems that you could do it yourself or buy a system from us. You'd mix and match, you know, whatever your needs are. So you could mix your lettuce with your chilies and peppers and tomatoes, cucumbers. So there's no problem there doing that way. But when you go commercial, it's not viable or feasible to have too many crops, you know, and it becomes, especially when you're supplying multiple restaurants, for example, or even a market. They expect you to have so many lettuce every week. So if you're splitting your tunnel into different things, you're never able to sustain that supply.
Okay, that makes sense. Definitely.
Yeah.
And is there any vegetables that you cannot grow in an aquaponics system?
Yeah, so up until now, and I say now because we know we're going to a different thing, which I'll touch on later. There's three main different types of systems in aquaponics. So behind me, you'll see what we call the deep water culture, which is floating rafts on water. Okay. And then on the side there, you've got flood and drain. And then you've also got the NFT on the tubes. So can you repeat your question, Tanya? Sorry.
I was going to say, my question was, is there any type of vegetables that you cannot grow in an aquaponics system?
Okay, so on those 3 types of systems, you can't really grow root type vegetables. Things like carrots, potatoes, onions. Yeah, anything that's under the ground, you know, that you can't really grow. You could grow it on our flood and drain beds, but the problem is they don't come out in a nice shape, you know, and they're not the right size because they're trying to fight the stone or whatever medium that you have in the system.
Okay.
But the new thing now, we in fact, after our course, we're going to change one of our systems, deep water culture systems, in what they call sandponics. Okay, so with sandponics, you can grow your potatoes and your carrots and things like that. Yeah,
that's cool.
So that's very exciting, and I think that's where aquaponics is heading. It's still pretty new. It's taken off in places like Egypt, and you know, we're playing catch up. Australia a little bit as well, but it makes a lot of sense because sandponics cuts a lot of the costs associated with aquaponics, and also allows you to grow basically anything.
Wow, that sounds
That's
very
cool.
exciting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if somebody wants to install something like this at home, Henry, I mean, what do we, what kind of size, what are the key points? What kind of area size do they need? What kind of crop do you think they should probably focus on for the best, return and that sort of stuff?
Look, most of our customers are backyard enthusiasts. So South Africans, we do sell ready-made systems, like a small 250-liter tank, for example, fish tank, and a 160-liter grow bed. But most people prefer to, South Africans anyway, prefer to, I call them DIYers, they like to do it themselves. So they go and buy a IBC. You know what IBC is? It's those
Yes.
Containers for liquids with
1,000-liter tanks.
Like with a metal frame, yeah. So they'll get one of those. It's got to be food grade. They'll cut off the top. They'll put the top upside down on the bottom, and the bottom is a tank. That becomes your fish tank, and the top becomes your grow bed. So with something as simple as that, at one stage, you could, pre-COVID days, you could pick them up for about 700 Rand for a food grade unit. But
Cool.
now they're quite scarce, so they're about 2,000 if you're lucky.
Oh, really?
But that's a good start for a backyard system. You get a very nice 1 by 2 meter by 1.2 meter grow area, and it will be fairly cheap to start. With 3,000-4,000 Rand, you can get going. Add a pump to it, add some grow media. We like to use leca, which is lightweight expandable clay aggregate, little clay balls, just because it's easy on your fingers when you're working the vegetables. And so somebody could start, if they're going to do it themselves, for even as little as 2,000 Rand or 1,000 Rand even,
Nice.
depending how big.
Well, Henry, I'm not the pipe and pump and valve and savvy type of person. So I would be the type of person that would want to go to a shop and go buy it. So if people wanted to source it from you, where would they find it?
Yeah, they could go through to our website, www.myaqaponics.co.za. And we do aquaponics and hydroponic equipment. Most of it is cross-pollinating anyway. There you would find some of our DIY systems, which includes a tank, a frame for the stand, a stand for the fish, for the grow bed, all the pipes, that sort of thing,
Great.
So that will be a plug and play, if you want to call it.
Okay.
Okay.
Look at the plug and play. Let's look at the smallest plug and play system. Do you have a pricing on that, plus minus approximately?
I just don't want to cut you off here. I'm just trying to see what I think it's about, our aqua ecosystem is about complete, excluding the grow media. The grow media would add another 1,000 Rand to it, but you could use building stone, for example. Just see. Aquaponics DIY. So our aqua ecosystem, that is the 250-liter fish tank, the grow bed with a bell siphon, with the piping, water pump, steel frame for the grow bed. That goes for 8,500.
Okay. Great. And that's got instructions that says this one goes here and it connects and that one connects there. And you put it together like a Lego block and you're done, right?
We do supply a little installation manual. Well, when I say little, it's not little, it's about 8-9 pages. So, but it's not rocket science, really. It's the best is to get your hands dirty and do it.
Great. Love that. Okay, that's good.
Yeah,
there's no cutting or anything. Everything is pre-done for you.
pre-made.
So you just put it together. Add water, and add fish and plants.
Just add water.
Yeah.
Great. Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Warwick?
All right. And then, so are you mentioned tilapia early on. What is the fish of choice for an aquaponic system?
Yeah, worldwide, I think tilapia is the fish of choice. There's different species of tilapia, and in South Africa we got some indigenous type tilapia.
Oh yeah, okay, that's good.
So what we call the Mozambique's tilapia and the Rendali tilapia, which is the red-breasted tilapia. For me, it's probably the best fish for aquaponics. And a lot of the Australians doing aquaponics wish they could have Rendali, the red-breasted tilapia, because they will eat greens. So if you've got extra lettuce or extra vegetables, you can feed it to them. So they'll eat that, which will bring the cost of feed down, you know?
Sure.
I mean, even things like cocky bush, which grows wild, they love it, you know? So yeah, the red-breasted tilapia is probably one of the best. The only issue with the tilapia species is that they like warm water, above 22 degrees possibly. And in places like Johannesburg, yeah, you'd have to heat up the water in winter. And that's the main challenge of aquaponics, basically anywhere outside a subtropical country or tropical country. You know?
Okay.
Yeah, so you're saving on feeding the fish, but you have to take out a bit extra to heat up the water in winter. So it's like a give and take situation, if I can call it that.
That's it. They're also called, people call them cold water fish, but they're not. Even the cold water fish like koi and carp and even your trout, yes, they can go to lower temperatures, but like trout, like 19 degrees centigrade water. But if it goes above that, then you've got the other problem. So in summer, if you have trout, you've got to heat the water. Cool the water. Cool the water down. The other thing with the trout is that they're very susceptible to disease. So if one contracts something, the whole batch dies. Where tilapia is quite a hardy fish. You know, we touch wood. In the past 10 years, we've never had issue with fish dying of any disease in our system.
Wow, that's great.
That's wonderful. Yeah. And tell me, where is the fish sourced? And do you have to check any certificates? Like when you buy seed potatoes, you need to buy certified seed potatoes because you don't want disease. Do you have like the same principle that applies to fish for aquaponics?
Yeah, look, in South Africa is basically a free-for-all, you know. So the guys can get fish from the river and from people that get fish from the river or dams. They do that because it's cheaper, but they do end up with problems and diseases quite often. We get all our fish from reputable breeders. We've also bred some fish in the past, but we prefer to get it from reputable breeders. And yeah, with the fish, depending on the province that you live in, you should, if you're going to keep some fish, you should apply for a permit from the Department of Nature Conservation. It's not an expensive permit. It's like 160 rand. I think it's gone up to 180 rand per year now. They might just come and do an inspection of your system to make sure that you don't have any runoff into rivers or whatever, and to make sure that you're keeping indigenous fish, you know. And then yeah, within a 4 to 6 week period, they issue with the permit to keep fish. Yeah.
Okay, and then the fish obviously grow. Do you eat the tilapia at some stage, or what do you do with it? Does it just keep growing old?
Yeah, it's a good question. Okay, so that's one fallacy that's out there about aquaponics being this miracle system where you got sustainable system for plants and for fish, right? Aquaponics is mainly to grow plants. And yes, you have the fish supplying the nutrients or the ammonia that then converts it to nutrients. And yes, every 12 to 18 months, you might be able to eat a plate-sized fish. When I say plate-sized fish, I'm talking about a 250 gram plus fish. But most people doing backyard, they start naming their fish and they're not going to eat their fish that they've named, you know. So I had a customer, I think I've got a video somewhere where the fish were actually eating out of his fingers, you know, so they become pets. But yeah, you know, on a commercial system, we also don't really eat our fish. Sometimes a restaurant begs us for a few fish. But yeah, we try and keep them, but eventually, yes, some get eaten.
Some, yeah, and the rest get really old. Okay. Okay. Warwick, I don't know what you think, but we can maybe ask Isak if he's got any questions for Henri at this stage. Isak, if you've got a question, just unmute yourself and you can ask. There we go.
Hi. No real questions. I've just tuned in for interest's sake. I've been looking around to also start up some aquaponic systems sometime in the future.
Okay, great. So
good. Yeah.
Well, anytime that you have a question.
Carry on.
No, sorry. Carry on.
Yeah. Yeah. So aquaponics, you know, I should have defined what aquaponics is from the beginning, which is basically growing plants in water using fish to create the ammonia. So you could use fish and you could use any other animal that wheezes and poos, you know, because that ammonia then gets converted into nitrates by beneficial bacteria, and nitrates is what the plants need. Okay, so it's that continuous cycle, and people always forget about the beneficial bacteria. So, you know, in aquaponics, there's 3 living organisms. There is the fish, there's the plant, and then there's, of course, the beneficial bacteria. And if any of those 3 are not happy, you're going to have an issue with your system, you know. So it's not as easy as they make it out to be, but it's manageable, and you have to understand how those 3 things work, what they like and what they don't like.
Are these systems really a closed loop kind of system, or do you have to still add additional fertilizer for the plants?
Yeah, good question, Isaac. So on the backyard systems and the smaller systems, you can get away, depending on your stocking density of fish, of just going with the fish. But you always have to supplement with either what's it called, calcium carbonate and potassium carbonate, because you don't get that from the fish, and that supplementation also is used as what we call a buffer for pH. Okay, because when an aquaponic system gets into a cycle, the pH tends to go down. Okay, and you want to be able to keep the pH between 6.5 and 7.5. So the potassium carbonate and the calcium carbonate sort of maintain that buffer, so it doesn't allow your system to drop the pH very quickly, you know, because it can happen overnight. In bigger systems, then you have to supplement also with potassium, calcium, magnesium, and iron mainly.
And but that's then more to supplement for the plants. Is that then not hazardous for the fish again, or is it?
No, the ones that are named there are not bad for the fish at all.
Okay.
Yeah, in the right quantities, of course.
Yeah.
Which
yeah, but that would be with any system, right? It doesn't matter if you were using aquaponics or not. That would be the same. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, because I mean, I was under the impression, right, that you get fish and food from a system, but from what you're saying, Henri, it's more of you're getting mostly food with one or two fish if you got a small DIY type system at home, right?
Well, it depends what you're referring to food. Food could be the fish and the plants, but
Yeah.
I think you're referring to the plants. So yeah, the main focus should, especially on commercial, should be the plants. Okay. People are under the impression, however, that they're going to get a sustainable source of fish.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
And that's not going to happen because, to grow a fish from fingerling size to plate size can take anything, depending on the species, anything from 6 months to 18 months, So you can only have a certain amount of fish or biomass in the system. Otherwise, if it gets overpopulated, you're going to poison the system. So you've got to manage your biomass of fish, right? So you can't have too many. And you also have to manage when you're going to harvest them, okay? Because the rule of thumb is that you're only allowed to have about 25 to 30 kilograms of fish per 1,000 liters. So you've got to keep to that sort of
ratio
recommendation. Otherwise, you've got to spend a lot more money on aeration and backup systems and things like that. So if you want to do fish farming, then you have to look at aquaculture, right? And even with aquaculture, people need to understand that to have a sustainable source of fish every month, for example, they would have to have at the minimum 12 fish tanks, one for each month. So on the first month you see the one tank. By the time you get to the 12th tank, you can start harvesting from the first tank.
That's a good point. Okay. All right. So if we're talking about then mainly plant food as a source of plant food, what kind of output can you give us in terms of a idea of what results you guys would be getting? What if everything is going lekker, everything's hunky-dory, and I've got my system running, I've got my say 10 to 20 fish, and I've got my plant bed set up, I switch the system on. What kind of, and let's say I'm doing things like lettuce, stuff that's fairly quick to turn over. What kind of output do you reckon I could be, ballpark?
Look, on an optimum system like system design on a 30 by 10 meter tunnel, you should be able to do 4,000 to 5,000 plants, or you should be able to have space for 4,000 to 5,000 plants. Of course, unless you've got a big customer to take all 5,000 plants every 4 weeks, you would want to stagger the planting, right? Because you've got a 4 to 6 week cycle, but from seeding stage until you harvest. So then you want to you maybe do 1,000, you plant 1,000 week 1, 1,000 week 2, and every week thereafter you can take 1,000 out,
Because I know Tanya eats a lot of salad. She likes her salad. That would be what, 3 salads a day, Tanya?
I've been doing it slightly.
And, 5 a day on weekends, or what?
But on a small system, say one like an IBC system or a 1.2 by 1.2 grow bed, you could, I wouldn't say feed a family of 4, but you could get a lot of your greens from it, your lettuces and your tomatoes and some cucumbers every now and then, and you'd have to stagger it as well. Plant here, you can't harvest everything at the same time, because if you harvest everything at the same time, your system basically goes dead, because now you've got too many nitrates and no plants. So it's always, you got to stagger what do you plant,
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, no, that's a good point.
So from what I hear, you need some skill, quite a bit of skill to do aquaponics, because I always use the example of horse riding. Don't get on a horse if you don't know how to ride it. It's just stupid. Don't get on a horse if you don't have a hat on. That's just stupid too. So if you want to do aquaponics, go on a course. So what have you got for us course-wise, do you have something that you can offer us and the groups that they can go do?
Yeah, we got a course on the 2nd of October. It is in Johannesburg, so you have to attend the course personally. I've thought of doing Zoom courses, but at the moment it's only at our premises in Lanseria. And the reason being that, you know, theory is all good and seeing pictures is all good, but when people actually see the system and they see the water flow and what's doing, you know, what's pumping water from here to there, and once they get that visual, it's much easier for them to then go and do it themselves, you know. So that's why we prefer to do it in Johannesburg. But yeah, we've been getting a lot of inquiries to do it on Zoom, and maybe in future we will look at doing that. But we also have an ebook that we sell online. It's 140 pages, which I wrote, and a lot of pictures from our systems. We touch on everything from water quality, the basics, what to test for, the fish, different types of fish that you can grow, the plants, plant life cycles, different system designs, and then also the economics of it, the financial side of it, maintenance issues, all that sort of stuff is covered in the book.
That sounds really good. And that book's available on your website?
Yeah, it is. It is. It's on our website. I think it goes for 350 Rand, but we can maybe
well worth it.
work on a discount for your groups if they're interested.
Okay,
Yeah,
great.
good.
We
Thanks.
can do something like that. That sounds good. Yeah, I'll speak to you about that, Henry, and organize that. Sure, there will be people that would be interested. Hi, Andrew. Nice to see you. Andrew, you've just joined us. We've spoken quite a bit. Is there any questions that you have about aquaponics at this stage that you want Henry to answer? If you do, just unmute yourself and ask Henry. Floor's open for you. Nothing?
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
He's lurking.
Andrew,
He's lurking.
Die hard. He's always here. It's always great to see Andrew here. All right. I was thinking of another question a moment ago, and it's just like, poof. Warwick, what did you want to ask?
Yeah, I mean, when we in terms of speaking about space, all right. So minimum amount of space with a roof and all that sort of thing, because you're going to need to have cover, right, for the protecting the fish, protecting the plants. What kind of, I mean, could we get away with like a garage sort of size setup?
Yeah, that's also a very good question, because when it comes to covering, you want to be covering the plants from rainfall, okay? But plants need light, so you need sunlight or artificial lighting, which costs you a lot of money. The reason why you want to cover the plants from rainfall is that any rainfall onto the plants or onto the system might dilute that nutrient mix, you know, that you have.
Right. Okay, that makes sense.
So
and also potentially introduce some, you know, toxins or impurities or whatever else as well from the rainwater, right?
Potentially, yeah.
Depending on where one lives, etc. Yeah.
So a lot of people do it on a patio, provided the patio or veranda gets some sunlight. And yeah, the fish are happy to be in sort of darkness as well. So they actually become more placid and not so jittery. And also covering the fish tank with a 80% shade net prevents algae growth.
That's a good point. Yeah. That's a great tip. Okay. And then being able to set that up in like could you do this? I mean, I think you've probably answered this already, but I mean, just in terms of dimensions, are we able to set something up like this in a garage type space? 6x3?
Yeah, for sure. Again, the thing in the garage is going to be where you're going to get your light from the plants.
No, I mean, sorry, what I mean is just by
Size.
the actual size itself, dimension wise,
Oh,
6
yeah,
by
yeah.
3, you know, because everybody knows, well, everybody's going to
Yeah,
be able to refer to
I mean,
to size
that's
of the
more than enough.
crop. Cool.
You know, on our aqua ecosystem, you'd need 2 by 2.
Oh, yeah,
Wonderful.
that's doable for most people. Hey,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
that's awesome. Yeah,
Even
lekker,
in
man.
urban situations,
Yeah, that's
people
what
will
I'm
be
thinking
able
as
to use
well.
the ecosystem.
Yeah, so you get to hang out with some fish. They chilling, and then basically you can get some serious amount of food out of that as well, which is quite cool. I mean,
Yeah.
are you able to, when you guys do your courses and that, I mean, or even in your book, maybe you guys, because I've also seen this thing now where people are putting in towers of like hanging, using some multi-purpose, using the space in multiple ways, if that makes sense. So so you're not just using the floor space, like let's say it's, you know,
Isn't that
one by,
hydroponic?
it's kind of like, is it, but can't you adapt
vertical
it for,
systems.
yeah, it's
Vertical.
vertical.
Yeah,
Can't
yeah,
you adapt it
it's,
for aquaponics as well?
you can. I'm
A bit
not
more
a
clear.
fan.
You need to be a bit more clever for that, or what?
No. I'm just not a fan of vertical growing
Okay.
in NFT systems, simply because, and I've seen systems and guys that have imported systems from the States, and you know, there's a big push for that in America, because of a supposedly lack of space in urban areas. But you know, I think it's all a money-making thing, because we don't have a problem with space in South Africa. But going back to the vertical system, the main issue you're going to have is how to get lighting all around, a 360 degree lighting around that vertical system. Okay. And I know of a specific system here in the Cape, in the Western Cape, and I won't mention names, where they spent over 4 million rand doing vertical systems, mainly hydroponics. And what happens is you get beautiful growth on the top of your vertical system, because that's where the sunlight is, right? But at the bottom, as the top starts growing, it blocks the plants at the bottom. So now you get this elongated plants trying to find sun at the bottom of your vertical
Gotcha.
system.
Gotcha.
You know, and it was a total loss. I mean, those guys have lost a lot of money, you know.
Oh.
So unless you can supply lighting 360 degrees around this thing, you're going to get part of your vertical system having nice growth and the other side not.
Yeah. Okay. That's a good
Makes
point.
sense.
One of the guys that are doing it in the States, like Elon Musk's brother, he's the one that's pushing vertical systems. Okay. But they got millions and millions to spend. And all around the pipes, the vertical pipes or channels, they have LED lights. You know?
Yeah, I was gonna say they must be using, and that's got to add up, eh?
Yeah.
But
How they
then at
make
least
money, I don't know.
because it's his brother, he's able to plug into the free solar, you know.
Of course, that's
They
it.
want to
That's it.
build all the way up to Mars.
Yes, that's what I
Vertical
say.
all the way.
It helps if you got a boot that's making power for free, right? But
Exactly.
but the power, setting that up itself, got to cost you a couple of bars. So yeah.
And the lighting itself, LED lights are not cheap.
Yeah, so yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, man. So what is the industry like in South Africa? I mean, let's say you know, I've got a plot and I've got a couple of sheep and cows and goats, and I'm kind of like Tanya at the moment, and I've got space for a 10 by, what do you call it, 30 by 10. And this is something I want to do. You spoke about supplying a restaurant or two, and they kind of crying to get more from you guys. Can you run through, you know, without obviously maybe giving away exact numbers, but can you give us some idea of if I wanted to set this up in South Africa on a little small holding, got some extra cash, I've sold some cows and some honey, and I want to reinvest this into supplying my local Joe's you know, vegan restaurant. what kind of numbers are we talking? What is my investment going to be for 30 by 10, give or take, for a full sort of turnkey system? And I must come on your course. So what is that all going to look like?
Yeah, you don't have to come on my course, but yeah, for a 30 by 10 tunnel, there's so many variables, and I'll touch on them. So a 30 by 10 meter tunnel, that's the easiest part. Completely covered in plastic, installed in Gauteng. You're looking at a going market rate of anything between 85,000 and 105,000 rand. That's what you pay for a tunnel, but nothing else, nothing inside, right?
Okay. That's just your structure, okay?
Yeah, depending on your system design, like if you look behind me there, and we've got a combination of deep water culture, and we have flood and drain grow beds. It's always nice to have a mix, because the one side actually acts as a biofilter for the beneficial bacteria. And again, we built that in brick, which is very expensive. You could get away of doing that in wooden frames with PVC liners, for example. You could use fiberglass grow beds, which is what we also push for, because fiberglass beds might seem expensive in the beginning, but you're cutting down on your labor costs, But if you've got cheap labor, then you could build like we have in the background there, with brick and mortar, and then put a PVC liner on the inside, or just put a liner there. So depending on your system design and what materials you use and the labor costs, are you going to do it yourself or not? You could be looking at a 30 by 10 complete for 4,000 to 5,000 plants with 20,000 liter tanks for between 250 if you do it yourself with cheap materials to 500,000 if you get a contractor to do it for you.
Okay.
Okay,
so
I've got a 3D model on my YouTube channel and MyAquaponics where I explain that design, which people are welcome to go and have a look at. Also give a lot of info on what each part is for and why it's there, and that will give them an idea of costings, the pump, all that sort of stuff.
Okay,
yeah,
that's
good.
great. And then kind of, so we go ahead, I've installed a system and I'm growing greens basically.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a 6 week, give or take 6 weeks at least for lettuce, right? Some things might be a bit more.
In summer it's 4 weeks, but also keep in mind that what we do at our place, we buy in the seedlings, so we don't always grow from seed.
Right? So that'll speed things up a bit as well, right?
Yes. So if you're going from seed, you got to allow 4 weeks before it gets to seedling stage. That's when you transplant onto the system. And then from there, another 4 weeks in summer to harvest lettuce, for example. Right?
Okay.
But if you're getting the seedling in, then it's a 4 week turnaround.
Okay, that's fair enough.
In summer.
In summertime, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And then what about the...
Okay.
Sorry, where go again?
I was going to say, because you're talking about summer there, and you mentioned the heating thing earlier on. How would the heating work over winter?
The heating is for the fish mainly.
So you don't have to worry too much about the plants.
No.
Really?
The plants the plants do slow down in winter. Like lettuce will take about 6 weeks.
Okay, so
in winter, but it's only 2 weeks really. 1 to 2 weeks difference in harvesting time.
Okay.
And of course, in winter you can't grow things like tomatoes and cucumbers and that sort of stuff.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Tell me, Henry, the produce that you take from your aquaponics system, can you call it organic?
What does it say?
That's a great question. That's a great question.
Can you read here?
Let's see.
What does it say?
MyAquaponics.
Better than organic. Better than organic
naturally. Okay.
There we go.
Look, I don't want to step on toes of the organic people, but you know, the organic people say that you can only call it organics if it's grown in soil, which obviously you know swipes hydroponics and aquaponics. Although there's big movements in America and the USA where aquaponics and hydroponics are going to be labeled organic, you know, eventually.
I just can't think why not, because this whole argument of planting in the soil, to me, organic is you're not adding any chemical or synthetic, or chemical is probably not the right word, but any poisons and any
pesticides,
pesticides, and what's kunsmis in English? You know what I mean? 3, 2, 1 or whatever. Not anything like that.
The main thing is still, according to somebody I spoke from the Organic Association many years ago in South Africa, was that she said that, you know, unless it's grown in soil, it can't be classified as organic. That's what she told me. If those things have changed since then, but yeah, as you say, you know, it's about not using pesticides and other harsh things, that GMO seeds and things like that.
So I can see why you say it's better than organic, because it just they don't want to take organic. And,
that's to rag them.
All right, so sorry, I'm just plugging in my computer here. So yeah, to me, it would classify as organic then, as long as you're not adding any hazardous things to it. It's just not everything's natural.
So what?
Yeah,
how
look,
would you
do? Okay.
Sorry, I was going to say. So how is it graded? What is the grade? How do you, when you go to a restaurant or something like that, and they say, oh, you know, and if I had to turn around and say, I've got this, these greens that I'm interested in selling as vegan or vegetarian, whatever. I can supply you between 4 to 6 weeks, and they're going to turn around and say, oh, is it organic? And then I'll turn around and say, well, it's aquaponic grade. What is the actual, what would you say is the term there that would be used? Yeah, the classification.
Yeah, look, we do say it's grown aquaponically, or you know, other people, most of the stuff that you buy at supermarkets grown hydroponically. So in South Africa, there's no real grading at the moment for aquaponic produce or hydroponic produce, for that matter. But if you are going to sell into the supermarkets, which we don't want to go that route, then of course they have their own
evaluation,
specifications, and whatever else.
Certification or whatever. Okay.
Certifications, yeah. There's a certification. In the US, there is a grading for aquaponic products, which is now accepted by a lot of the chefs and restaurants and supermarkets.
Ah, cool.
But in South Africa, we're not there yet. And I've never had issues. You know, when we go to the restaurants and we show our produce to them, the lettuce, they just can't believe how fresh it is. But it's also how we were supplying to them. So we like to supply them with what we call live lettuce. So we don't cut off the roots. We put the roots in a plastic bag with a little bit of water, and the lettuce stays fresh all the time. You know, up to a week sometimes.
Wow,
that's pretty cool. Wow. All right, so then
I've actually seen lettuce with roots in checkers as well. I wonder if that was grown aquaponically, hydroponically as well.
Yeah, probably hydroponically, but it's a big trend in the USA as well.
Yeah, I think I've seen that a couple of times here as well at one or two of the like the Woolies type version of the UK shops.
They do it with herbs as well.
Okay.
So all right, so we've talked about the layout, the outlays, about between 250 500 grand for what I'd call a commercial setup. I like my lettuce too, but how much after getting my fill of 3 salads a day and sending some to Tanya in the post, what am I talking about when I go to the restaurants and I say, okay, this is what I'm doing? What's the kind of going rate for a head of lettuce, or what is it, like a is the head of lettuce, right?
Look,
What are those numbers like, Henry?
to be honest, I was quite involved when I was still in Johannesburg 4 years ago. So I used to go to restaurants and try and get their business. And what we used to do then, we used to look at the market price, Joburg market price, which is a public info. You can go to their website and see what the going rate is for lettuce and the different varieties and things like that.
Cool.
And then, of course, we obviously want to try and charge a premium, but restaurants are not always prepared to pay that. They're not always prepared to pay that premium. Okay.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, I can't remember the exact. We used to sell a head of lettuce from between 6 and 8 rand. That's like 4 years ago, to the restaurants. At the moment, we mainly supply. Things have been slow because of COVID, so we didn't really grow much last year because all the restaurants are like closed.
Yeah.
It's starting to open again. We supply some to the hotel where we're based, but it's also slow at the moment. So yeah, we use the Joburg market price as our reference point, and we try and go a few notches above that.
Nice. Okay. And what do you see as like the up and coming innovations or opportunities for aquaponics?
Yeah, the sandponics that I mentioned earlier will make it a lot cheaper to build a system, because you do away with your filtration requirements. So you don't need a mechanical filter. You don't need a biofilter. So idea of sandponics is basically having a fish tank. From the fish tank, you pump water up to a channel or grow bed filled with sand, and in that sand you have like mounds and
troughs.
Yeah, mounds or troughs, like you do conventional growing. You put on a timer, you pump water into the sand, so all that gunk from the fish comes onto the grow beds. And then beneficial bacteria start decomposing that, and over time it becomes like an ecosystem in that grow bed. And like I said, you can grow anything. You can start growing fruit trees. You can start growing potatoes and carrots and all that sort of stuff. So we're actually changing one of our smaller systems to sandponics after the course from the Sunday. And then I will be posting a video on the whole build and on our channel. So that is the way I see things going. And like I said, in Egypt, they're doing huge systems, sandponics. Obviously, they've got a lot of sand.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it's a very efficient system. Very efficient system.
So, but actually, if you think about it, I mean, this is sci-fi type level stuff, but Elon Musk maybe even stuff, but it's potentially, from the sounds of things, could be used to convert desertification back into reusable agriculture, right? In some ways,
make use of the desert. Yes, that's right.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
To grow vegetables.
To grow goods into it, and effectively over time, probably be cut. A number of cycles, number of years or seasons or whatever. But like you say, that the stuff going through the sand will eventually start building up its own ecosystem.
That's right. Like very much like permaculture.
Like a regenerative soil program, right?
That's it. Yeah.
And that could be.
Well, I can hear Warwick.
That could be quite cool.
Warwick, I can hear Elon Musk is one of your mentors, or not mentors. What do you call it?
He's one of my
for this year because he's thinking of already of transforming the desert. Well, that's really good. Well done. Listen,
Yeah.
Henry,
not?
tell me, you were talking about videos. Where can we see your videos? Can you you can tell us, and please type it in the comments for us where we can find your videos.
On the MyAquaponics website at the bottom, we got a link to our YouTube channel. Or if you go into YouTube, you can just search for MyAquaponics.
Okay, that's easy.
Yeah.
Right.
That's pretty cool. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, John, I see you joined us. Thanks, man, for popping in. Any questions from your side, or Andrew, have you got questions yet?
Or Isak,
Henry?
if maybe Isak's got
Or
some more
Isak, again,
questions.
any more questions, guys? This is your chance. Hands up, put your video on. Let us see you in your PJs or whatever's going on. Just keep it kid friendly, you know.
Hi there. No, I've got nothing at the moment. Thanks. I've been looking at this in the past, but I haven't sort of set anything up. But I'm interested in it. I'd like to see what it's all about. I have opened up on.
Andrew,
I've got a separate screen here that I've got you. I've opened up the YouTube channel and your website, so I can see all of it there. So it looks very interesting.
Excellent. Thank you.
So it was easy to find, Andrew?
Yes, it was very easy to find. Yeah.
Okay, that's good.
You just type it into the YouTube search and it comes up. It's about, I think you're at the top.
Oh,
brilliant.
That's good.
My marketing's working.
Yeah,
it is.
Good stuff.
Another call.
The other thing that another resource that we have is our blog. So I've posted a few articles there, not all related to aquaponics, but the majority are. One of the very first posts that I put in there was one of our customers. He basically built a aquaponics system, like a little greenhouse thing, shed, with all scrap materials that he had in the backyard. And he spent like 5,000 Rand to. It's got a pretty looking system. Right, one of our very first blogs that we did. But yeah, there's a lot of information on our blog as well.
Great.
No, great, man.
Henry, can I ask you a favor? If you could possibly WhatsApp me all the links to everything that you've got, then I can put it on my group because people will be interested, and I'll refer back to this talk, which they can go watch our channel, and then I can refer them to everywhere your online shop, your YouTube channel, your blog, whatever else you've got, so we can just
all the resources,
direct traffic that way, so they can come see what you've got.
Yeah, and then
I shall do. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and then we'll throw those into the YouTube video as well in the description below, you know. So that'll be cool. So between the two of those things and the replay, the replay link, that'll be all available for anybody who wants to get in touch. Nice.
Good. I look forward to following your channel as well.
Great, man. Thanks. Yeah. So any last questions, guys? Isaac, Isak, John?
What is typical electrical consumption or requirements? Is it just the pumps?
Yeah, again, that comes down, if you're talking small systems or big systems, you know, every system requires what we call a water line and an air line. So water is for water pump would drive that, and the air would be driven by an air pump, right? So if you're doing things like deep water culture, you need to supply air to the grow beds and to the fish. Where if you're doing flood and drain, you only need to supply air to the fish. So minimum requirements is a water pump and an air pump. Water pumps, again, depending on the size of your system, even the bigger spec pumps, you know, they're making pumps that are more power efficient. So you can get a pump now that does 12,000 liters per hour for, it only draws like 100 watts, you know. The biggest air pump that we supply is also 100 watts. So that's 200 watts that you would be using.
Okay, that's not bad.
Yeah. On smaller systems, you might get away with a 90 watt water pump and a 60 watt or 40 watt air pump. So that's like 100 watts. 100 watts based on current South African rates, say R1.50 per kilowatt, you'd be looking at about 100 Rand a month if you run it 24/7.
Wow,
Around there.
That's good.
that's cheap.
And if you want to go the solar route, you could get one of those mobile solar power banks with two 100 watt solar panels and a 100 amp hour battery, and hook that up, and cost about 15 grand. But
yeah,
once you've got it kind of thing, and it's mobile. You could fold them up and move them around if you wanted to, if you're not plugged into but obviously you'd need to be plugged into the system. But yeah.
What I recommend when people want to go the solar route, they always ask me, have you got a 12-volt pump or 12-volt air pump or water pump? And we do sell a 12-volt water pump, but they're not made for 24/7 operation.
Okay.
So what I always recommend is have your solar system, buy a cheap inverter, and 12 volt or 24 volt to 220 volt, and rather use 220 volts pumps on your system.
Okay.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Yeah. Good. All right. Awesome.
One other thing, I've just, you probably mentioned it at the beginning, which I missed. What fish do you use?
Mainly the tilapia, and we also have some bottom feeders like African catfish. And the best tilapia for us is the red-breasted tilapia, because they eat insects and greens. So if you've got extra lettuce, they will survive on lettuce only. So they're probably the best because it brings down the cost of commercial feed.
Thanks.
And it's quite a nice fish to eat, but
it's the best tasting tilapia I've ever had, the red-breasted. It doesn't grow as big as the Mozambiques. South Africans call it the kurper, the blow kurper, and the blow kurper is the Mozambiques, and the rooibos kurper is the rendali, the red-breasted. But the red-breast has got a nice white meat, firm meat, and whatever you add to it, it absorbs that taste. And I like prawns, but if you eat a prawn and you eat a well-cooked red-breast tilapia, red-breast by far the best.
Awesome.
nice.
That's really good.
All right. In
Any
closing,
other questions, guys?
I see Marianne's has joined us. Has she got a question before we wrap up? Shame. Came in quite like
No,
right
you
at the
came in
end.
on the tail of
Rather
the-
late
of the-
rather late than never, Marianne. But welcome. Have you got a quick question for Henri? You can unmute yourself and have a quick shoot something quick off.
Doesn't seem that way. Well, Marianne,
Hi guys.
There she
Sorry,
is.
I'll try to catch up in a way. No questions, sorry.
okay.
Okay.
Marianne,
Keep-
we're going to have a replay. So Warwick will post the replay link for us in the group.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're from Beware or from the Self-Sufficient Homesteading and Gardening group, but there will be a replay in both. So,
Thank you so much.
all right.
Ah,
Okay,
pleasure.
well-
Thanks for joining us, and keep an eye out for that for the video on YouTube. Okay.
Yes. Henri, I want to
Yep.
thank you for coming on and speaking with us today. It's been great, and thank you for all the knowledge and information that you shared. And I look forward to finding your channel and following you. And thank you for everybody else that joined. And Warwick, thank you, my co-host. It's always good.
Pleasure, man. Yeah, it's been great to have you on, Henry. Thanks, man.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
I think it's a growing opportunity, you know. I mean, yeah,
the
so yeah, exactly.
It's very rewarding, if nothing else.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's a big move into more, eating more green and being more green. So, and I mean, this makes sense to me as it being one of the options of providing multiple routes to that, you know. So it's pretty cool. Yeah, it ticks a lot of boxes, which is awesome. So yeah, man, thanks for coming on and sharing, and good luck for the 2nd of October, the course. When's the one following that? When's your next one after that? Because
it's difficult, you know. We've had because of the COVID restrictions, we have to like listen for the next announcement.
Yeah.
But I believe we're going to go to level 1 in October. So I doubt we'll do another one this year, but we try and do one like beginning of February. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, great.
No, good to know.
Well, send the information through to me. I'll post it to you.
Okay.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay.
All good, man. All
Okay.
good.
Thanks, guys.
All right, guys.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Have a great evening.
Just some
You
quick admin. We skip next week, but we'll be back on the 6th, right?
Yes.
Awesome. See you guys
On
then.
the 6th of October, we're back.
6th of October.
And
Yeah.
we're talking with some specialist small stock dairy owners and farmers. We're talking about dairy goats and dairy sheep and what you can do, how you keep them, etc. So it's going to be a really good talk. So don't miss that one.
Interesting.
Awesome. All right, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thanks again.
Thank you.
Have a good one. Take care.
Okay.
Keep well.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.